My daughter blocked me after the divorce without listening to my side of the story, and now 8 years later she comes around and asks for inheritance, and I laugh in her face. I 52M never thought I'd be writing this, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. 8 years ago, my world shattered when my marriage of 20 years fell apart. The divorce was messy, painful, and left scars that I'm still dealing with today. But the worst part wasn't losing my wife, it was losing my daughter. It all started when my ex-wife decided she wanted out of our marriage. I won't go into all the details, but let's just say it wasn't a mutual decision. She had her reasons, some valid, some not so much. But what hurt the most was how she turned our daughter against me. At the time, our daughter was 18, just starting college. She was old enough to understand what was happening, but young enough to be easily influenced. My ex-wife wasted no time in painting me as the villain in our story. She told our daughter things, some true, some exaggerated, and some outright lies, that made me out to be a horrible husband and father. I tried to tell my side of the story, to explain that things weren't as black and white as her mother was making them out to be, but my daughter wouldn't listen. She was hurt, confused, and angry, and all that anger was directed at me. The day she told me she never wanted to see me again is etched in my memory. We were standing in her dorm room, boxes of her things scattered around us. I had come to help her move in, hoping we could talk things through, but as soon as I arrived, I knew something was wrong. She looked at me with such hatred in her eyes, it felt like a physical blow. "I know what you did to Mom," she spat. "I don't want you in my life anymore. Just leave." I tried to explain, to beg her to hear me out, but she wouldn't budge. In the end, I left, my heart breaking with every step. That was the last time I saw her for 8 long years. At first, I tried to reach out. I called, texted, emailed, I sent letters and cards for every birthday and holiday, but they all went unanswered. After a year of silence, I got the message. She didn't want me in her life. Those first few years were the hardest. I threw myself into my work, trying to fill the void left by my family. I went to therapy, trying to make sense of how my life had fallen apart so completely. I dated a bit, but nothing serious. How could I open my heart again when half of it was missing? As time went on, the pain dulled to a constant ache. I learned to live with it, to build a life around the hole in my heart. I made new friends, picked up new hobbies. I even started volunteering at a local youth center, hoping to make a difference in some kids' lives, since I couldn't be there for my own. Then about 6 months ago, out of the blue, I got a text. "Dad, can we talk?" 2 lines that sent my world spinning all over again. I'll admit, my first instinct was to ignore it. After 8 years of silence, why now? But curiosity got the better of me. I agreed to meet her at a local coffee shop. Seeing her walk in was surreal. She looked so much like her mother, but with my eyes. She was a woman now, not the teenager I remembered. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. We sat down, ordered our drinks, and then came the awkward silence. Neither of us seemed to know where to start. Finally, she spoke. "I'm getting married," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "And, well, I've been thinking about family a lot lately." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Was this it? The reconciliation I dreamed of for years? But as she continued talking, my heart sank. She wasn't here to make amends. She wasn't here because she missed me or wanted me back in her life. No, she was here because she wanted money. It turns out, planning a wedding is expensive, and buying a house, even more so. She had heard through the grapevine, probably from her mother, that I had done well for myself over the past few years. My business had taken off, and I was in a comfortable financial position. So here she was, after 8 years of silence, asking if I would help pay for her wedding and contribute to a down payment on a house. As if the last 8 years hadn't happened. As if she hadn't cut me out of her life without a second thought. I sat there, listening to her talk about her plans, her fiancé, the life she was building, a life that hadn't included me until she needed something. And something inside me snapped. I started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but a bitter, disbelieving laugh that made her stop mid-sentence and stare at me. "Let me get this straight," I said when I could finally speak. "You haven't spoken to me in 8 years. You've ignored every attempt I've made to contact you. You didn't want me in your life. But now that you need money, suddenly I'm dad again?" She had the grace to look ashamed, but she pressed on. "I know it's been a long time, but I thought maybe we could start over. You're still my father after all." Those words, which should have warmed my heart, only fueled my anger. "No," I said, my voice hard. "I stopped being your father the day you decided you didn't want me in your life. You don't get to waltz back in after 8 years and claim that connection when it's convenient for you." She tried to argue, to explain, but I cut her off. "Do you have any idea what these past 8 years have been like for me? Did you ever once stop to think about my side of the story? Did you ever consider that maybe, just maybe, things weren't as simple as your mother made them out to be?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I was too far gone to stop. Years of pent-up hurt and anger came pouring out. "I missed your college graduation. I missed your first job, your first apartment. I missed 8 years of your life because you wouldn't give me a chance to explain. And now you're here, not because you want your father back, but because you want his money. She started to say something, but I held up my hand. No, you had 8 years to listen to me, and you chose not to. Now it's my turn to choose. And I choose not to be your ATM. I stood up, my coffee untouched. I hope you have a wonderful wedding. I hope you and your fiancé are very happy together. But I won't be paying for any of it. As far as I'm concerned, you made your choice 8 years ago. You don't get to change your mind just because you need something from me. With that, I walked out, leaving her sitting there, stunned. As I drove home, a mix of emotions swirled through me. Part of me felt guilty for being so harsh. After all, wasn't this what I had wanted for years? A chance to reconnect with my daughter? But a larger part of me felt relieved. Like a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had been lifted. For years, I had held on to hope that one day she'd come around, that one day I'd get a chance to explain my side of things. But now I realized that hope had been holding me back, keeping me tethered to the past. In the weeks that followed, I waited for the regret to set in. I expected to wake up one morning, horrified at what I'd done, desperate to call her and apologize, but it never happened. Instead, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't experienced since the divorce. Yes, I had lost my daughter, but I had lost her 8 years ago, not in that coffee shop. All I had done was finally accept it. Some might say I was too harsh, that I should have taken this opportunity to mend fences, regardless of her motivations. And maybe they're right. But after 8 years of being the bad guy in her story, I couldn't bring myself to play the role of the doting father with deep pockets. As I write this, it's been 6 months since that day in the coffee shop. I haven't heard from her again, and I don't expect to. I've updated my will, leaving most of my estate to the youth center I volunteer at. They've done more to fill the hole in my heart these past few years than she ever did. To anyone out there dealing with family estrangement, I say this. It's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to have boundaries. And it's okay to expect respect and consideration, even from your own children. I'm not proud of how things turned out with my daughter. In an ideal world, we would have talked things through years ago. We would have found a way to understand each other, to forgive. But this isn't an ideal world, and sometimes, the happy endings we hope for just aren't possible. Instead, I'm focusing on the life I've built for myself. On the friends who have become my family. On the kids at the youth center who light up when I walk in. It's not the life I imagined for myself all those years ago, but it's a good life. A life worth living. And if there's one lesson I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the family we choose is more valuable than the family we're born into. Blood may be thicker than water, but love, real, unconditional love, is thicker than both. As for my daughter, I wish her well. I hope she finds happiness in her marriage, success in her career, and peace in her life. But I also hope she learns that relationships, all relationships, require effort from both sides. That love isn't a tap you can turn on and off when it's convenient. And maybe, just maybe, one day she'll understand why I did what I did. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm too busy living my life on my terms, surrounded by people who truly care about me, not just what I can do for them.